Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 9 and we will present about relative clause, noun clause, adjective clause and adjective clause. The member of the group are me, Aprilian Rudiana, Salma Mukirahayu and Shiva Aprilianisari. First, I will explain about relative clause. Relative clause is a relative clause that contains additional information about the subject or object in a sentence. Relative clause is also a type of dependent clause. The sentence has a subject and a verb but cannot stand alone as a whole sentence. The sentence is known as an adjective clause because its function is similar to the adjective function, which is to provide additional information to a noun. Relative clause use a relative pronoun, which is a pronoun that combines sentence and explain noun. The relative pronoun itself consists of the following. First, who, used to replace the subject in the form of people, and cannot be used to replace object or animals. This pronoun is used to replace the object noun or pronouns such as he, she, we, and they. For example, that man wanted to buy the red car. He came yesterday. The man who came yesterday wanted to buy the red car. The girl is the new student. She speaks Russian very fluently. The girl who speaks Russian very fluently is the new student. The relative pronoun who in the above sentence replace the subject he and she. Second, whom, used to replace object in the form of people, so whom can be used to replace object or animals. This pronoun is used to replace the object, noun or pronoun such as him, her, us, and them. For example, Bobby just replied to my email. I talked to him yesterday. Bobby, who I talked to yesterday, just replied to my email. Robert Downey Jr. acted very well in this movie. I adore him very much. Robert Downey Jr., who I adore very much, acted very well in this movie. The relative pronoun whom in both sentences replace the object him. Third, whose, used to replace possessive pronouns such as his, her, its, my, your, their, and our. For example, Jack is driving a new car today. His old car broke down a few days ago. Jack, whose old car broke down a few days ago, is driving a new car today. Sarah won this year's marathon. Her brother is a professional runner. Sarah, whose brother is a professional runner, won this year's marathon. The relative pronoun whose in both sentences replace the possessive pronoun his and her. 4. Which, used to replace subject and object in the form of object or animals. For example, I like this song. It is very romantic. I like this song, which is very romantic. The jacket is new. I wore it yesterday. The jacket which I wore yesterday is new. The relative pronoun which in the above sentence replace it. And the last is that. That is the most commonly used relative pronoun. That is used to replace people, animals, or things as above subject and object. That can also replace the relative pronouns who and which. For example, that woman is my mother. She is in a red dress. The woman that is in a red dress is my mother. And you can also use the relative pronoun who to replace the subject she. The woman who is in a red dress is my mother. The laptop is very convenient to use. I bought it yesterday. The laptop that I bought yesterday is very convenient to use. And you can also use the relative pronoun which to replace the object it. The laptop which I bought yesterday is very convenient to use. Relative clause also use relative adverb which are used to describe noun explaining time, place, and reason. Relative adverb consists of three forms, namely, first, when, used to describe time. For example, A. I remember the day. B. We bought a new car on the day. I remember the day when we bought a new car. The two clauses are combined and added relative adverb when to describe the time. I will give you another example. I cannot remember a moment when I was with him. The most beautiful part of my life was when I found someone right to be my husband. I don't know the day when you arrived. Second, where, used to describe a place. For example, A. She bought a small house. B. A poor family lived in there. She bought a small house where a poor family lived in. The two clauses are combined and added relative adverb where to describe a place. I will give you more examples. I see the house where she lives. The house where she lives in is very big. That's the park where they met 9 years ago. Third, why, used to explain a reason. For example, A. I don't know the reason. B. She doesn't want to talk to me. I don't know the reason why she doesn't want to talk to me. The two clauses are combined and added relative adverb why to explain a reason. For example, there must be some reason why they moved to another city. Do you know why the baby kept crying for hours? I don't understand why Keno gets angry with her brother. Next, relative clause is divided into two, namely restrictive relative clause and non-restrictive relative clause. Let's discuss them one by one. First, restrictive relative clause, also known as defining clause, is a relative clause that provides important information on the subject or object mentioned in the sentence. The following are some important points regarding defining relative clause. Defining relative clause provides specific and detailed information about a matter, not general information. Defining relative clause is added immediately after the subject or object without adding a comma first. Defining relative clause cannot be eliminated in a sentence because it will change the meaning of the sentence as a whole. The relative pronouns used are who, which, whose, or whom. Don't use that. The formula for using relative clauses in a sentence is subject plus relative clause plus verb plus complement, or subject plus verb plus object plus relative clause. The following is an example of defining a relative clause in a sentence. My sister, who is 27 years old, is going to Bali for vacation. The book which I read last month is very popular now. The student who didn't come last meeting have to meet Mr. Parker soon. Second, about non-restrictive relative clause, or also known as non-defining clause. It is the opposite of defining relative clause. Non-defining relative clause provide additional information about something, but the information is insignificant about an object. The following are some important points about using non-defining relative clause. Non-defining relative clause provide general and unimportant information about something. Non-defining relative clause is preceded by a comma first. Non-defining relative clause can be removed in a sentence and will not change the meaning of the sentence. The relative pronouns used are who, which, whose, or whom, and may use that. The formula for using relative clauses in sentence is subject plus comma, relative clause plus verb plus complement, or subject plus verb plus object plus comma, relative clause. The following is an example of using a non-defining relative clause in a sentence. That girl who has short black hair is my sister. Some cats which live near my house are usually fed by my mom. Mr. Brooks, that is wearing blue blazer, will be our headmaster on the next semester. You can conclude the difference between the two if non-defining relative clause add extra information to the sentence, while defining relative clause add essential information to the sentence. Okay, the next material will be explained by my friends.
Noun clause. Definition of noun clause. A noun clause is a dependent clause and cannot stand alone as a sentence. In a noun clause, the full subject and predicate are retained. The noun clause fills the same function and serves the same function as noun. As simple nouns and identify person, place, things, and so on, it can be concluded that the clause is a dependent clause that has function as a subject, object, or complement. They are introduced by words such as how, if, that, whether, which, who, what, when, where, whomever, was, why, and whom. Function of noun clause. Subject and subject complement and direct object, direct complement, object of the preposition, adjective phrase complement, and appositive. And the function number 1 is noun clause as the subject of a sentence. The first grammatical function that noun clause perform is the subject. Subject is a word, phrase, or a clause that's perform the action of or acts upon the verb. Formula: question word, when, where, who, what, why, how, plus subject plus verb plus object are complementary words. And number 2, that plus verb plus object or complementary words. And number 3, if or whether plus subject plus verb plus object are complementary words. Notes: words in bold are dependent clause that replace the beginning of a sentence. Example: when the actor saved the actress from the accident, is the most touching scenes. What caused the accident was the chef's carelessness. That she can debut as an actress is her dreams. Whether I can pass the test or not will be known next week. That she decided me in front of my friend cannot be forgiven. Whoever at my lunch is in big trouble. How you will finish all your homework on time is beyond me. That the museum cancelled the lecture disappoint me. For you not graduated from college now is such as Sam. And number 2, noun clause as subject complement. A subject complement is a word, phrase, or clause that follows a copular or linking verb and describe the subject of a clause. The terms predicate, nominative, and predicate noun are also used for noun clauses that function as subject complements. This type of noun clause is usually placed after the linking verb is, am, are, was, were, and the adverb serves to refer to the subject of the sentence. Noun clause formula. Subject plus linking verb is, am, are, was, were, be plus question word who, where, when, how, why, what plus subject plus verb. Number 2, subject linking verb is, am, are, was, were, be plus that plus subject plus verb. And the last, subject plus linking verb plus is, am, are, was, were, be plus if or whether plus subject plus verb. Note the part in bold independent clause that serves as a complement to the subject. Example of noun clause to complement the subjects. Nina's biggest mistake was that she accepted the broadcast. The question is how those kids can finish all of this food in 30 minutes. The loser will be whoever get pointed by this bottle. The truth was that the moving company lost all your furniture. My question is whether you will sue the company for losses. And number 3, noun clause as direct object. A direct object is a word, phrase, or clause that follows a transitive verb and answers the question who or what, retrieves the action of the verb. Noun clause can also be placed an object in a sentence. Noun clause as the object of the sentence is placed right after the verb of the sentence. Noun clause formula. Subject plus verb plus question word plus subject plus verb. And second formula, subject plus verb plus that plus subject. And number 3, subject plus verb plus if or whether plus subject plus verb. Notes. Part in bold are dependent clauses that function as object. Example of noun clause as sentence object. I don't know whether Lisa will come or not. Robbie believes that her mother will recover from her disease. Diana predicts that her father will buy a new gadget for her birthday present. Jimmy understands why his girlfriend left him. Kiara informed where we should meet. Harry announced when he will get married. Our dog eats whatever we put in his bowl. And the function number 4 is noun clause as object complement. Object complements are defined as word, phrase, and clauses that directly follow and modify the direct object. Example, her grandfather considered his biggest mistake that he did not finish college. The committee has announced the winner, whoever wrote the essay on noun clause. And the function number 5, noun clause as prepositional complement. The fifth grammatical function that noun clause perform is the prepositional complement. A prepositional complement is a word, phrase, or clause that directly follows a preposition and complements the meaning of the prepositional phrase. This type of noun clause is placed right after the preposition and function as an object in the sentence. This preposition can include anything such as from, which, with, of, out, for, and so on. Noun clause formula: subject plus verb plus preposition plus question word plus subject plus verb. Notes: part in both are dependent clause as the object of the preposition. Example: in this meeting, we will discuss about what factors affect the decrease of our sales. We will start our journey from where we have decided before. Lisa would like to thank me for what I have done for her. I am curious about how he will propose his girlfriends. Kevin has not decided about where he will work after graduate. And number 6, noun clause as adjective phrase complement. An adjective phrase complement is a phrase or clause that complement the meaning of an adjective phrase. This noun is placed right after the adjective and the formula can be seen below. Noun clause formula: subject plus verb to be plus adjective plus that plus subject plus verb. Subject plus verb to be plus adjective plus if plus subject plus verb. And the last, subject plus verb to be plus adjective plus question word plus subject plus verb. Note: the part in bold is a noun clause that serves as a complement to the adjective. Example: I'm afraid that she will tell everyone about my secret. Kiki is worried that he cannot pass the university entrance exam. Benny is happy that he can spend his Christmas Day with his family. It is wonderful if we can share with others. Louis is amazed that his baby can learn to speak quickly. I'm not sure how I should explain this case to her. Jenny is not sure why Kevin left here. It is obvious what he meant. Ira was disappointed that her parents cancelled their vacation plan. It is quite confusing when the lecturer explained about algorithm. Lisa is upset when her parents forgot about her birthday. Harry is not sure what will affect him. Devin is angry when his friend embarrassed him. My parents are happy that I graduate with complete predicate. My grandmother is excited that we will be visiting here this weekend. And the last function of noun clause is a appositive. An appositive is a word, phrase, or clause that modifies or explains another noun phrase. Example: that man, whoever is he, tried to steal some library books. The problems that the storm knocked out power is affecting the entire town. Adjective. Definition of adjective. According from Cambridge Dictionary, adjective is a word used to describe pronoun, noun or pronoun that can be person, place, animal, abstract object, or command. This English adjective is one of the 8 parts of speech. As example of adjective are dark, hot, young, bad, pretty, teeny, selfish, stubborn, bright. Adjective form. In use, there are several conjunctive forms that can be used in a sentence. Among them are adjective pairs. Adjective pairs is the combination between adjective as head and modifier or determiner. Example: homemade dark chocolate, modifier plus adjective. That's hot drinks, determiner plus adjective. Many young men, determiner plus adjective. Cute dogs in the park, determiner plus adjective. Compound phrase. Adjective may also join another part of speech, such as noun and verb to form a new word, while if this happen, a new word produced is called the compound adjective. Example: high-speed cameras, adjective plus noun, while now outdoors, adjective plus past participle. Oil-free products, noun plus adjective. Use adjective in English. Perhaps we had not been overly concrete about simply know what an adjective means. As it turns out, the adjective used in sentence turn out there are rules and sequence of their own that we need to follow. Adjective position. Adjective position in the use of adjective. There is the positions or location of the adjective in the sentence. Attributive. Adjective comes in front of nouns or nouns. Post-positive adjective behind the nouns without the linking verb interrupted. Predicative adjective is placed after the noun interrupted by the linking verb. Example: beautiful girls. Attributive, someone special. Post-positive, they are beautiful. Predicative, adjective order. Adjective also have order in a sentence if there is more than one adjective in a sentence. Then you need to follow the order rules based on the following categories. Opinion. Relative things like pretty, delicious, cool, nice. Size. All size like big, teeny, fat, tall. Shapes. Describe shapes such as square, round, cylindrical. Egg. Describe egg or eggs such as old, new, young. Color. Colors such as red, green, blue, yellow. Origin. Describe the country, region of origin such as American, Chinese, Turkish. Material. Describe the main material of the object such as steel, bronze, ceramic, stone. Purpose. Describe the main function of the object. Generally, it cannot be separated from its noun such as meeting room, wedding dress, gathering tools. You need to pay attention to the order above and don't go back and forth. Absolute example: he had two happy big brown pigeons. Happy, opinion, big size, brown color. I will bring you a beautiful hug flower bouquet. Beautiful, opinion, hug size. Have you seen my little 5 years old white dog around here? Little size, 5 years old, egg, white color.
Next, types of adjective. Adjectives have several types that are used in the use of sentences. Namely, first, proper adjective, used to describe an object with a proper noun self-name. For this type of adjective, it must start with a capital letter. For example, an America pilgrim, the Turkish Empire, the West Java cuisine. Second, descriptive adjective, used to describe the nature and condition of a person, animal, or thing. For example, a white dog, a new newspaper, a brave man. Third, quantitative adjective, used to describe how much of an object is attended. The words that are included in this quantitative adjective are little, much, no, any, some, enough, whole, sufficient, and half. For example, he drinks too much beer. He ate a little bread. My dad thought that I will eat that whole pizza alone. 4. Numeral adjective, used to describe a number in numeric or numeric form. The numerical adjective can also be used to calculate the ordering a condition. For example, I bought 5 series of books. My mom left me $2 to buy lunch. Don't forget to add a special request to our hotel reservation in order to get a free breakfast for two. And the last is distributive adjective, used to divide a noun in a sentence. Noun can refer to people, inanimate object, individually or separately. Adjectives then go into defining a noun are each, every, either, and neither. For example, the two students had each a book. He was attacked with a fever every other month. You can take either side.
Okay, here I'm Siva Aprianisari. I will going to explain you about clause. A clause is a group of words that includes subject and a verb. A clause functions as an adjective, an adverb, or a noun. A clause contrasts with a phrase which doesn't contain a subject and a verb. Next, I will explain about easy examples of clauses. The first examples is during the day, Vlad slept in a cabin. The subject of this clause is Vlad and the verb is slept. During the day is a phrase because there's no verb. And the second example, when the moon shone, he lurked in the shadows. The subject of the first clause is the moon. The verb is shone. The subject of the second clause is he. The verb is lurked. And the third is he stalked a pretty milkmaid who lived in the neighboring village. The subject of the first clause is he. The verb is stalked. The subject of the second clause is who. And the verb is lived. Life examples of clauses. There are two types of clause. The first is an independent clause, one that can stand alone as a sentence, and the second is a dependent clause, one that is usually a supporting part of a sentence. In these three quotations, the independent clauses are shown in bold and the dependent clauses aren't. The first example is, even though I made $1,800 million, I am still grounded. From Boxer Floyd Mayweather. The dependent clause could be a stand-alone sentence, but the dependent clause couldn't. The second, a computer once beat me at chess but was no match for me at kickboxing. After I die, I'll be forgotten. The opening words of the dependent clauses above, even though, but, and after, are all subordinating conjunctions. Subordinating conjunctions link a dependent clause to an independent clause. How are clauses used in sentences? Clauses can play a variety of roles in sentences. A clause can act as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. One is noun clauses. The first example, she cannot remember what she said last night. The clause acts like a noun. It could be replaced with a noun. Example, her rant. The second, now I know why tigers eat their young. Mobster Al Capone. This clause could be replaced with a noun. Example, the reason. The second, adjective clauses. The first example, my friend who lives in London looks like Homer Simpson. The clause acts like an adjective. It could be replaced with an adjective. Example, my London best friend. The second, you should never make fun of something that a person can change about themselves. This clause could be replaced with an adjective. Example, unchangeable. 3. Adverbial clauses. The first example, he lost his double chin after he gave up chocolate. The clause acts like an adverb. It could be replaced with an adverb. Example, recently. The second, I am not afraid of the pen, the scaffold, or the sword. I will tell the truth wherever I please. This clause could be replaced with an adverb. Example, there. Why should I care about clauses? Native English speakers can create and combine clauses and phrases without stumbling into too many snakes. However, there are two great reasons to care about clauses. The first reason is understanding when to offset an adjective clause with commas. The adjective clauses in these two sentences are identical, except one is offset with commas and one isn't. They are both punctuated correctly, so what's going on? For the first example, a boy who went to my school won the lottery. And the second, Michael Carroll, who went to my school, won the lottery. Look at the first example. When an adjective clause is required to identify its noun, here in boy, there it is not offset with commas. Put another way, the subject of the sentence is a boy who went to my school. Look at the second example. When an adjective clause is just additional information, then it is offset with commas. Put another way, the subject of the sentence is Michael Carroll. If you'd happily put brackets around the clause or delete it, then it should be offset with commas. The second reason, understanding when to offset an adverbial clause with commas. The adverbial clauses in these two sentences are identical, except one is offset with a comma and one isn't. They are both punctuated correctly, so what's going on? The first example, when the game has finished, the king and pawn go in the same box. Italian proverb. The king and pawn go in the same box when the game has finished. When your adverbial clause or phrase for that matter is at the front of the sentence, often called a fronted adverbial, it is good practice to use a comma afterwards. As in the first sentence above, when it's at the back, the comma tends to be omitted as in the second sentence. Okay, so, I will going to explain about adjective clause. An adjective clause, also known as a relative clause, is a type of dependent clause that works to describe a noun in a sentence. It functions as an adjective even though it is made up of a group of words instead of just one word. In the case of an adjective clause, all the words work together to modify the noun or pronoun. And for the last material is adjective clauses add detail. Adding adjective clauses to your writing is a good way to provide additional detail about the nouns and pronouns in your work. This extra description will enrich your writing and help the reader understand your message more clearly. Once you know the relative pronouns and how to distinguish between essential and non-essential clauses, you'll have no trouble identifying adjective clauses and punctuation them correctly in your writing. And with all this talk of clauses, this may also be a good time to refresh your memory and independent and dependent clauses. Adjective clauses in use. Below are a few more examples of adjective clauses. See if you can determine which ones are essential and which are non-essential. As you review them, ask yourself, is the information necessary to the meaning of the sentence? Is punctuation required? The dog that I brought home from the pound will soon fast asleep. The time will come when you feel sorry for the things you've done. The smart teenager whose parents are many neighbors went to a prestigious college. The used car, which my dad bought last week, broke down yesterday. The reason that Penelope failed the test is that she didn't study. Next material is essential versus non-essential adjective clauses. Sometimes the information included in an adjective clause is very important to the meaning of the sentence. For cases in which the sentence wouldn't hold the same meaning without the clause, the adjective clause is called an essential clause. For example, I don't like children who eat ice creams with their hands. In this case, the adjective clause gives essential information to describe the children. If you got rid of that clause, the sentence would simply say, I don't like children, which is very different from not liking messy children who eat with their hands. An essential adjective clause doesn't require any additional punctuation. A non-essential adjective clause, on the other hand, gives extra description that is not strictly required to understand the writer's intent. For example, the kitten, which was the smallest of the litter, finally found a foster home. In this case, the adjective clause gives extra information, but it isn't necessary to get the gist of the sentence about the cat finding a home. Non-essential adjective clauses are set off with commas to show that they aren't strongly connected to the rest of the sentence. Adjective clauses are dependent. All adjective clauses are dependent clauses. A dependent clause is a group of words that consists of a subject and a verb, yet it is not a complete sentence that can stand alone. Adjective clauses begin with a relative pronoun which connects them to the word they describe, such as that, where, when, who, whom, whose, which, and why. Once you remember the relative pronouns, it's very easy to pick out an adjective clause in a sentence. For the first example, chocolate, which many people adore, is fattening. The second, people who are smart follow the rules. 3. I can remember the time when cell phones didn't exist. 4th, Charlie has a friend whose daughter lives in China. 5. The wine that vineyards produce in Tuscany is not cheap. And the last, the reason why Sandra went to law school is that she didn't want to be a doctor. Notice that each of the italicized adjective clauses begins with a relative pronoun from the list above. This connects it to the noun being described, which comes directly before the relative pronoun in the sentence. Each adjective clause above also contains a subject and a verb, all of which work together to describe the original noun being modified. For example, the clause which many people adore contains the subject people and the verb adore. Yet by itself, it is not a complete sentence. Instead, its job is to provide more information to describe the noun chocolate. In some cases, the relative pronoun also serves as the subject of the clause. For example, in the adjective clause who are smart, the relative pronoun who also acts as the subject that is smart.